Good afternoon and welcome to the book of Leviticus. Yes, I think we're on our 34th step on our walking tour through the Bible. And this is where the walking gets a bit, well, uphill if you like. The book of Leviticus is not an easy read, and I am the first to admit that. It's not an easy read because of the sort of book it is. It's sort of a handbook for the Leviticus, for the people of the tribe of Levi, for the priests. It's a handbook of worship and also a handbook about ritual laws. And that tends to be a little bit dry and dusty, which is a bit of a pity because the book of Leviticus also is a bit dry and dusty because so much of it, what it's talking about, no longer applies. I mean, there are no sacrifices for our Jewish brethren because there's no more Jewish temple. So it's describing the temple sacrifices projected onto the time in the desert. But of course, because there's no temple, there are no sacrifices, so they're purely of historic interest. However, for Catholics, the book of Leviticus is rather important because some of the ideas that are around in the book of Leviticus are ideas that animate the Catholic faith to this day, or should animate the Catholic faith to this day. Some of the ideas in the book of Leviticus may have been rather occluded by recent events and recent ideas, but we need to, in a way, go back to the book of Leviticus to remind us what's really important. Now, if you just look at the first two chapters, God is speaking to Moses, and in fact, the first 2, 3, 4 chapters, in fact, 5 chapters, God is speaking to Moses and laying down the rules about sacrifice, the killing and burning of animals. And of course, as you can read it, the killing and cutting up of animals, the sacrifice of burning of certain parts of animals, the eating of other parts of animals, the dedication of certain parts to God, the idea that you can eat certain parts yourself and give certain parts to the priest, so-called communion sacrifices, which you share with God. The major idea behind this idea of sacrifice is, well, sacrifice. You take the animal from the flock. You're allowed to take a male, usually. It actually specifies. Now, why does it specify a male? Sometimes it specifies a female, because the female is much more important. This female can be used for breeding purposes in the flock. The males are largely left surplus to requirements, not wanted on voyage. So you only need one male goat amongst 30 females, for example, for breeding purposes. So you could take a male. It's got to be unblemished, though. So you're not allowed to pass off on God something that's second rate. You've got to take a good, perfect specimen, and then you kill it and you offer it to God. This is a sacrifice. You give to somebody, God, that which was yours. You are depriving yourself of something in order to win the favor of God, in order to please God. And again, we have this idea that the smoke going up from the sacrifice is a pleasing scent in to God. So the smell of the sacrifice, the smell of the burning meat pleases God. And of course, it pleases human beings because it's a lovely smell, isn't it? When you hear, what's cooking? You come into a modern house and there's meat roasting in the oven. You think, delicious. But of course, here it's a religious thing. It's the smell of the sacrifice is pleasing to God. Now, why make these sacrifices to God? Well, there are two reasons. One is thanksgiving, but the other one is expiation. When you have offended against God's law, in order to make up to God what you have done wrong, you take an animal of the flock and you offer that animal to God. Now, many of our brethren, I think, might be tempted to say, well, God does not want a dead sheep. God does not want you to kill one of his sheep. Don't be ridiculous. How can that possibly be mandated by God? Well, it is mandated by God in Leviticus. I think one's got to look behind this sort of ritual of animal killing and ask what's really important here. And it's this: the idea of oblation or sacrifice, the idea of offering up. Nowadays, we do not offer animals to God, thankfully. We do not pour their blood on the altar, thankfully. What do we offer to God? We offer ourselves. That's important. And the idea of self-offering is fundamental to the Christian religion. We offer ourselves to God, we serve him, we consecrate ourselves to him, and it's this idea of offering up. The other thing is we can make sacrifices. We can say, well, today I won't watch television, or today I won't look at the internet, today I won't eat chocolate. Something can be something incredibly tiny and token like that. as a sign of the fact I wish to show to God my goodwill. I wish to show to God that I'm sorry for my sins. I wish to show to God that I'm prepared, willing, and eager to give him a present, if you like. That is what the sacrifice is, giving a present to God to make up to God for all our shortcomings. And the idea of expiation, that's the rubbing out of sin through sacrifice, central to Christianity, but the expiator, the priest, and the victim, the one who offers indeed himself, is Jesus Christ on the cross. And the blood of the sacrifice that washes away our sins is the precious blood of Christ. Now, we mustn't poo-poo the book of Leviticus, particularly these opening chapters which are talking about sacrifice and the burnt offerings and so on and so forth, because Jesus Christ became the sacrifice that takes our sins away, the complete sacrifice that takes our sins away, who immediately, in doing so, made all other sacrifices redundant and out of date. Now, when Jesus died on the cross, they were busy sacrificing the paschal lambs in the temple. And of course, the real paschal lamb is Jesus Christ. The paschal lamb sacrificed in the temple were, if you like, symbols of Christ offering himself on the cross. And while the reality of the Christ on the cross is for all time, therefore it means we don't need any more paschal lambs to be sacrificed in the temple. So, yes, the book of Leviticus is certainly what you'd call archaic, outdated, but it's pointing us, it's a shadow that points forward to Jesus Christ himself. Well, I'll talk a bit more about Leviticus in forthcoming episodes. All the very best for now. Bye.